10 clear signs you are a spiritual healer. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. Have you ever wondered why you're so deeply affected by others' pain? Or why people naturally open up to you, even without knowing why? In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore 10 clear signs that you may be a spiritual healer, someone whose very presence brings comfort, understanding, and energetic restoration. These aren't just traits, they're callings. And if these signs resonate with you, it's time to embrace your gift and bring it into your daily life for greater growth, purpose, and healing. Which of these signs do you see in yourself? Comment below and share your experiences. Your insight might just awaken someone else's purpose too. 1. You've been through deep pain or trauma. Many spiritual healers have one thing in common. They've endured intense emotional or physical suffering that most people will never fully understand. Whether it was childhood abuse, abandonment, loss, betrayal, serious illness, or even near-death experiences, these wounds didn't happen by accident. They were part of your soul's deeper preparation, your training ground for the sacred role you were always meant to play. You weren't just surviving trauma. You were being initiated into the kind of wisdom that cannot be taught, only lived. The pain didn't weaken you, it awakened you. Each moment of heartbreak was sharpening your sensitivity. Each storm you endured was cracking open your compassion. These hardships planted seeds of deep empathy and emotional intelligence, the very qualities a true healer must carry. Unlike others, you don't just understand pain, you feel it in others. You know the language of suffering, even in silence. And that's why people instinctively feel safe around you. They sense that you get them, even when they don't have the words. Spiritual healing isn't about having a perfect life or being untouched by difficulty. It's about what you do with the darkness you've known. When others collapse under the weight of emotional pain, you transmute it. You transform it into light, insight, and peace. This is not a talent, it's a soul calling. You don't just carry wounds, you carry medicine. You don't need to fix others. Your energy itself is a healing presence because you've already walked the path from brokenness to breakthrough. Most people run from pain, but you've learned to sit with it. You've made peace with your own shadows and now guide others through theirs. You don't force healing, you hold space for it. You don't lecture, you listen. That's the mark of a true spiritual healer. The ability to stay soft in a world that hardened you, to remain kind when cruelty tried to turn you cold, to rise again and again from ashes that once looked like the end, but were really the beginning. This isn't a weakness, it's the highest form of strength. You've become a channel for grace because you allowed your own story to become a light for others. The very things you thought would break you are now the reasons you can heal. Your scars have turned into symbols of sacred power. Your survival is no longer just survival, it's purpose. And that purpose is what makes you different. It's what draws others in. Your life has become living proof that healing is possible. That's why, even without trying, you bring comfort. Without speaking, you offer calm. You don't need a title or credentials. Your soul already knows what it came here to do. And everything you've been through has prepared you for it. Comment below. My pain has a purpose. If you're ready to turn your past wounds into wisdom and step fully into your healing power, your story can inspire others. Let's grow through what we've been through together. 2. You've experienced a dark night of the soul. You've gone through what felt like the collapse of your world, a deep inner crisis that left you questioning everything. It wasn't just sadness, it was a soul-level unraveling. You felt disconnected from life, adrift in meaninglessness, maybe even angry at the universe. But somewhere in that darkness, a shift happened. You began to sense things more deeply, feel emotions more intensely, and connect with energy in ways you never did before. This wasn't just suffering, it was awakening. And that experience, though painful, unlocked something sacred within you, the gift of being a spiritual healer. Many who are destined to heal others walk through the fire first. This path echoes the ancient shamanic archetype. In indigenous traditions, the shaman is not chosen for their strength or perfection, but for their wounds. Illness, death, despair, these experiences become the gateway. Through crisis, the shaman is brought to the edge of the known world, stripped of identity and reborn with the power to guide others. This isn't just mythology. It mirrors what you've lived. Your trauma opened doors to dimensions unseen, to a deeper awareness of spirit, energy, and purpose. In today's society, these initiations are rarely recognized for what they are. You may have been told you were depressed, burned out, or mentally fragile. But what if your breakdown was actually your soul cracking open to let the light in? What if what looked like falling apart was actually falling into alignment with your true calling? Many spiritual healers don't choose their path. The path chooses them through trials that refine their empathy, deepen their compassion, and awaken their inner knowing. Take the story of Anna, a young woman who spent years working in a hospital. After the loss of her child, she fell into profound grief. She withdrew from life, questioning everything she once believed. But in her silence, something stirred. She began to explore meditation, energy work, and holistic healing. Her hands, once trained in clinical tasks, now moved with intuition. Her words became soft medicine. Her pain became her power. Through her own healing, she unlocked a gift she never expected: the ability to bring others peace. When you've walked through your own darkness, you no longer fear the shadows in others. You hold space. You listen without needing to fix. You radiate safety. You recognize pain in someone's eyes because you've seen it in your own. This is what makes you a healer. Not a title, not a certification, but a lived truth etched into your soul. You know how to walk others through their storms because you've survived your own. This is why your trauma matters. It wasn't random. It was a sacred activation. It carved space inside you for more light, more love, more wisdom. Your deepest wound became a doorway, and you chose to step through it. That's the mark of a spiritual healer. You are not just surviving. You are transmitting healing through your presence, your story, and your silent strength. If you've faced your darkest night and feel the light returning, it's not by accident. Comment below, "I rise with purpose," to affirm your awakening and inspire others on their healing journey. 3. You're sensitive to crowds and energies. Spiritual healers are like energetic sponges, absorbing the emotions, pain, and vibrations of everyone around them. This isn't something they choose to do. It's how they're wired. In crowded or chaotic places, they don't just notice the atmosphere, they feel it in their bodies. A healer can walk into a busy room and instantly pick up on tension, sadness, or even unspoken anger, and it can leave them feeling drained without knowing why. This sensitivity often leads to mental fog, emotional exhaustion, or even physical symptoms like headaches or nausea. It's not weakness, it's intuitive intelligence operating on a higher level. Because of this, solitude becomes essential, not optional necessary. Quiet spaces aren't just preferences, they're energetic sanctuaries. A healer finds comfort in silence, soft nature sounds, or a calm room where their nervous system can breathe again. These environments allow them to release the emotional static they've picked up and return to their own natural frequency. Without this sacred alone time, they risk becoming overwhelmed, anxious, and energetically disoriented. That's why many healers are drawn to meditation, walks in nature, or even long moments of stillness, not as escape, but as medicine for the soul. Yet for much of their lives, healers are misunderstood. They're often told they're too sensitive, too quiet, or too emotional. But this sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a gift. It allows them to tune into suffering others can't even see. They feel what's unspoken. They carry unexpressed grief. Their presence alone often soothes those who are hurting. But in order to continue giving, they must first protect their own light. Boundaries, energetic hygiene, and time alone are not selfish acts. They are survival skills. What most people call overwhelming in healers is actually deep spiritual perception. The body reacts to what the mind doesn't consciously understand. That fatigue after a social gathering, that sudden sadness you couldn't explain, that emotional heaviness that came out of nowhere. It's your soul telling you it's been absorbing too much. Listening to those signals is how you preserve your power. Recharging isn't laziness, it's preparation. A healer's energy is their most powerful tool, and protecting it is part of their sacred duty. If this message resonates with your soul, repeat after me. I honor my sensitivity. I protect my energy. I trust this message is meant for me today. Type it in the comments to affirm your truth and let your healing journey be witnessed. 4. Deep connection with nature. Those who carry the gift of spiritual healing often feel most alive and whole when surrounded by nature. It's not a coincidence, it's a sacred bond. The forest is not just a collection of trees, it becomes a living temple. The ocean doesn't just sparkle, it speaks. You find peace in the rustle of leaves, clarity in the crash of waves, and restoration in the quiet stillness of the mountains. Nature is more than a backdrop to your life. It is the pulse of your soul. You don't simply admire its beauty. You feel its energy, its wisdom, its silent grounding presence. There's a subtle electricity in the air before a storm that wakes something ancient inside you. There's a message in the sunrise, a rhythm in the wind, and healing in the soil beneath your feet. This connection is so intimate that even your dreams are drawn to it. Visions of remote places, serene and untouched, where you live in harmony with the elements. You long for these spaces not to escape, but to return to the simplicity, the quiet power, the truth of who you are when the world is still. In these natural places, you aren't just recharging, you're remembering. You're returning to the frequency of the earth, where your energy aligns effortlessly. Crowded places may feel heavy. City lights may leave you feeling overstimulated or emotionally distant. That's because your soul was never meant to be boxed in. It was born to breathe with the trees and dance with the stars. You are attuned to something ancient and real, and your body responds. You crave sunlight, not just for warmth, but for nourishment. You walk barefoot, not just for comfort, but to ground your energy back into the planet. You might be drawn to herbal remedies, to rivers and moonlight, to the scent of rain, not out of preference, but out of spiritual memory. These aren't hobbies. They're signals, markers of a path you've walked before. This deep connection to nature isn't a coincidence. It's confirmation. Confirmation that your spirit carries the vibration of healing, and nature is the tuning fork that keeps you aligned. In your presence, others begin to feel calmer, clearer, even if they can't explain why. That's the power of someone who is synced with the earth, a natural healer whose energy brings balance without saying a word. If this message has touched your soul, leave a comment of alignment. I feel the healing power of nature flowing through me. I am one with the earth, and peace surrounds me. 5. Extreme emotional sensitivity, empathic abilities. One of the clearest signs you are a spiritual healer lies in your profound emotional sensitivity. You don't just notice someone is upset, you feel it in your own body before they say a word. When someone walks into the room with heavy energy, it hits you like a wave. When joy is present, you absorb it like sunlight. You are an emotional antenna, constantly receiving the signals others don't even know they're broadcasting. This ability to feel so deeply isn't just random, it's sacred. Often labeled as an empath, you carry an innate gift, the power to understand, soothe, and heal through pure presence. People gravitate toward you, drawn not by what you say, but by what they feel around you, safe, accepted, understood. It's not uncommon for strangers to tell you their life stories, or for friends to say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but..." What others see as being too sensitive is actually your strongest healing tool. Your emotions are not a weakness. They are a diagnostic device, letting you sense where pain resides, even if it's hidden behind smiles. It allows you to bring warmth into cold spaces, to comfort someone who hasn't yet found the words for what they're feeling. Sometimes, healing happens not through advice, but through the silent presence of someone who truly sees you. But being this open comes with its own challenges. Crowds can feel overwhelming. Conflict feels like thunder in your chest. Even watching the news can drain your energy. You've likely had moments where you questioned yourself, wondering why you feel everything so intensely. But this is not a flaw. It's a compass. It's guiding you toward who needs your light the most. Take the story of a young woman named Alina. She worked at a busy cafe, and though her job was to serve coffee, her deeper role was unspoken. One day, a customer who looked fine on the outside placed his order, but Alina sensed something, a quiet despair behind his polite smile. As she handed him his cup, she simply said, "Whatever it is, it will pass." The man froze. Tears welled in his eyes. Later, he returned to tell her that her words kept him from making a devastating decision that night. She didn't do anything dramatic. She just felt and let her empathy speak. This is the quiet power of the spiritual healer. Your gift isn't loud or flashy. It's subtle, invisible to the eye, but deeply felt by the heart. And while the world may tell you to toughen up, your task is different. It's to remain soft in a world that has forgotten the strength of tenderness. Your emotional sensitivity is your compass, your radar, your instrument of light. As you continue your path, learn to honor it, protect it, and use it with wisdom. Because when you do, you don't just witness healing, you become it. If this message resonated with your heart, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Your sensitivity is a sacred gift, not a weakness. Comment below. My sensitivity is my superpower. Let the world know you embrace your empathic nature with pride. 6. Your presence lifts others up. Even without saying a word, your presence brings peace to others. You walk into a space, and suddenly, people feel a little calmer, a little lighter. It's not something you try to do. It simply happens. You radiate an energy that shifts the atmosphere, making others feel safe, supported, and seen. This isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about the silent power you carry, the kind that reaches people on a soul level. People may not always be able to explain it, but they are drawn to you. They confide in you. They feel lighter after spending time near you. And often, they leave your presence without the emotional heaviness they came with. It's as if your energy helps them breathe easier, even if you don't say a single word. You're not necessarily giving advice or solutions, you're simply being, and your being is healing. This is the quiet essence of a true spiritual healer. Your ability to soothe others likely stems from your own personal journey. You've faced hardships. You've walked through emotional fire and emerged with compassion as your language. And now, without effort, that compassion extends to others. You hold space for people in a way that allows them to be vulnerable, to release pain, to feel understood without needing to explain themselves. You don't push them to heal. You create an energetic environment where healing naturally unfolds. It's not uncommon for people like you to be mistaken as merely good listeners or easy to talk to. But it goes deeper. Your energy is a sanctuary. Being around you feels like coming home warm, accepting, and peaceful. The emotional clarity others gain isn't from your words, it's from your presence. You absorb what's heavy and radiate what's light. And often, you do it without even realizing it. There's a reason the soul chooses to express healing, not just through action, but through presence. A spiritual healer doesn't need a stage. They just need to exist fully and authentically. As you move through the world with this gentle strength, remember that you're playing a vital role. Your presence uplifts, not because it's loud, but because it's real. And in a world so often full of noise, your quiet energy speaks volumes. If your presence brings peace to others, it's a sign of your inner light. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights on how your quiet energy can be a powerful force for healing in this world. 7. Vivid and spiritually significant dreams. Vivid dreams that carry spiritual weight are often not just the mind wandering, they're portals. People who are natural spiritual healers tend to be strong dreamers, not because they sleep deeper than others, but because their souls remain awake and alert even in the unconscious state. These dreams are more than just images. They're experiences. During the night, many healers visit the astral plane, a dimension beyond the physical where time bends and the soul can roam freely. In these spaces, they meet spiritual beings, ancestors, or guides who pass on subtle but powerful messages. These encounters don't just feel real, they leave emotional imprints and deep clarity, often offering direction or answers that the waking mind had been seeking. Such dreams often contain messages from the higher self, signs from the universe, or glimpses into the future. Sometimes, you may find yourself dreaming about places you've never visited but that feel hauntingly familiar, or interacting with beings who speak in symbols rather than words. The body sleeps, but the healer's energy is still in motion, processing, sensing, and absorbing. Many of these dreams come right before or after major shifts, healing crises, awakenings, or transformations because they're meant to prepare, warn, or empower. One may wake up with a strong sense that something needs to be done or changed without being able to logically explain why. That is spiritual intelligence in motion. When you carry healing energy, you also carry a frequency that aligns with the subtle realms. This means your spirit becomes like a radio receiver, tuned in to higher wavelengths. That's why these dream experiences feel different from regular dreams. They don't vanish upon waking. Instead, they linger, pull at your attention, and reveal new layers of meaning as the days go by. Some even return in patterns or cycles, as if spirit is asking you to pay attention to a lesson you've missed. If your dreams bring healing to your emotions, offer insights you couldn't possibly know, or simply feel like they're more than dreams they probably are. For spiritual healers, these nighttime journeys serve as training grounds. You may be taught how to move energy, how to forgive and release pain, or how to prepare for the next stage of your soul's purpose. Even if the images are symbolic, the healing is real. In fact, many spiritual healers experience physical or emotional shifts after such dreams, waking up lighter, crying without explanation, or feeling drained after a battle that only happened in the astral world. It's because the healing work continues, even while the body rests. When dreams become bridges between dimensions, when sleep becomes a sacred classroom, and when messages flow through images rather than words, this is a sign you are deeply connected to the spiritual world. It is also one of the clearest signs that you are a spiritual healer, even if you haven't yet fully stepped into that role. Have your dreams ever felt more like messages than mere sleep stories? If you've received spiritual insights or powerful visions in your dreams, share your experience in the comments below so others can be inspired. If you haven't explored this realm yet, comment, "I'm ready to receive," and open your heart to divine guidance tonight. 8. Deep compassion and the urge to help others. You feel it in your chest, the sharp ache when someone else is hurting, even if they never say a word. Their pain becomes your pain. You don't just sympathize, you internalize. This is not weakness. It's the unmistakable signature of a spiritual healer. You were born with a heart that refuses to look away, a soul that cannot stay still in the face of suffering. The need to help others isn't a choice. It's a calling etched into your very being. But this gift, as sacred as it is, demands wisdom. Without it, your compassion can become a trap. You may begin to believe that love means sacrificing your well-being. You might start bending over backwards for others, losing yourself in the process. This is how natural-born healers can fall into patterns of people-pleasing and emotional codependency. You give so much of your energy away that you're left depleted, quietly breaking under the weight of others' wounds. Still, there's a way to serve without surrendering yourself. Take Jessica, for instance, a school counselor with an instinct to care for every troubled student. She once met Mia, a girl who never spoke, never smiled. Instead of trying to fix her, Jessica simply sat beside her each day during lunch. No pressure, no expectations, just presence. Weeks passed. Then one day, Mia whispered, "I feel safe with you." That moment didn't require grand gestures. It was the silent power of grounded compassion. Jessica's ability to hold space, not just offer solutions, became the healing force Mia needed. This is the quiet mastery of a spiritual healer. It's not about rescuing people or absorbing their pain. It's about radiating peace, being a mirror of safety, and understanding that sometimes the most powerful healing comes from simply being there. True healers know when to pour in and when to pull back. They learn to protect their light while still offering warmth. They understand that boundaries are not walls. They're sacred containers that keep their energy clean, focused, and effective. As Ram Dass said, you can do it like it's a great weight on you, or you can do it like it's part of the dance. To heal wisely is to embrace the dance, to move with grace between caring deeply and standing firmly. To realize that you are not here to carry everyone's burdens, but to remind them that they can carry their own. So if your heart breaks open for the hurting, if your instinct is to reach out, to soothe, to restore, then yes, you are a spiritual healer. But never forget, healing flows from overflow, not emptiness. Your compassion is your power, and your boundaries are what make it sustainable. If this message speaks to your soul, take a deep breath and repeat after me. I am a vessel of compassion, guided by wisdom and protected by healthy boundaries. 9. People open up to you instantly. People seem to open up to you without hesitation. Within minutes of meeting, strangers begin sharing their deepest fears, heartbreaks, and life stories. They don't know why, but you do. It's your energy. You carry a calm, healing presence that feels like sanctuary to those who are hurting. It's not what you say, it's what you are. You are safe. You are grounding. You are light. This is not random. It's a sign that you are a spiritual healer. People sense that you won't judge them. You listen with your whole being, not just your ears. Your silence is comforting. Your gaze is kind, and your spirit feels like home. Like wounded birds finding shelter in a tree during a storm, broken souls come to rest in your energy. They feel seen without having to explain. They feel heard even before they speak. This is your gift and also your challenge. Because when you carry such a strong healing vibration, people will come to you over and over again. They may not always give back what you offer. Their pain might become your burden if you don't learn to protect your energy. As much as you want to help everyone, you must remember this truth. You can be compassionate without being consumed. You can be open without being emptied. You are not here to save everyone. You are here to remind people they can save themselves. Your path as a healer is not just about comforting others. It's about learning balance. Spiritual healing begins with self-awareness. You must learn to ground your energy, shield your spirit, and release what isn't yours. Breathwork, visualization, prayer, silence, these are your tools. Not just to serve others, but to sustain yourself. Because if you burn out, your light dims, and others need that light more than you know. This ability to attract openness from others is a sacred responsibility. And when you understand how to carry it wisely, you stop absorbing pain and start transforming it. You become a mirror, reflecting strength back to the wounded. You remind them of their power, not by fixing them, but by being fully yourself. That's what makes your presence healing. That's what makes you a true spiritual healer. To affirm your role as a safe space for others, declare your intention to protect your energy while offering light. Comment below. I hold space with grace to honor your gift and inspire others to do the same. 10. Need for solitude to recharge. Being around others constantly drains you, not because you don't care, but because you care deeply. As a spiritual healer, you are highly empathic, absorbing not only words, but unspoken emotions, subtle energy shifts, and silent wounds that others may not even realize they carry. This intense sensitivity makes solitude not a luxury, but a lifeline. When you're alone, you're not escaping the world. You're returning to yourself, finding balance after being stretched by the energetic weight of others. Solitude becomes your sacred space to reflect, to reset, and to release everything that is not yours. It is here, in the quiet, that your soul breathes. Without the background noise of others' emotions, you can finally hear your own thoughts, reconnect with your inner guidance, and remember why you are here. This is not isolation. It is alignment. It is not loneliness. It is spiritual clarity. In those moments of stillness, you feel God closer. Your energy clears, and your mission as a healer becomes more focused. Empaths and spiritual healers often operate like energetic sponges, soaking in the moods and vibrations of everyone around them. Left unchecked, this constant exchange can lead to fatigue, emotional confusion, or burnout. That's why time alone is essential. It is how you cleanse, how you recharge, and how you protect your sacred frequency. In solitude, you create energetic boundaries that allow you to serve without losing yourself in the process. This is the wisdom of self-preservation, not selfishness. Many people might not understand your need for space. They may label you quiet, distant, or even cold. But deep down, you know that this space is where your power is reborn. It's where you recalibrate your energy so you can return to the world not just present, but empowered. You are not meant to carry everyone's weight endlessly. You are meant to guide, not absorb. Solitude helps you discern that fine line. The more you honor your need to retreat, the stronger your intuition becomes. Divine guidance flows more clearly when you're not distracted by external noise. Your energy field strengthens, your heart stays soft, and your purpose becomes unshakable. In solitude, you are not alone. You are surrounded by peace, truth, and the sacred frequency of your soul. That's why solitude is not only your refuge, it's your resurrection. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the 10 clear signs you are a spiritual healer. Whether one or many of these resonated with your soul, remember your sensitivity, empathy, and connection to energy are not weaknesses, but divine gifts. Embrace them, nurture them, and let them guide you toward your highest calling. If you found this video meaningful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos filled with insights to support your spiritual journey. Stay radiant, stay aligned, and keep shining your light. How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. As the great Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. In a world full of triggers, how do we remain calm, centered, and untouched by other people's energy? This video is your guide to mastering emotional freedom, so you no longer react out of pain, but respond from wisdom. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe true peace isn't about avoiding people. It's about transforming how you relate to them. Have you ever felt hijacked by someone's words or energy? Comment below with your experience, and let's explore together how to reclaim your inner power, no matter the chaos around you. 1. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. When someone offends you, it's easy to believe that they are the problem. Their words, their attitude, their energy. But the truth, as Carl Jung taught, is far more revealing. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. What stirs your anger or discomfort is rarely about the person in front of you. It's about the unresolved pain, the buried beliefs, the emotional wounds you haven't yet faced. Their comment or behavior is just a match. The fire was already inside. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form. Because once you understand that your reactions are reflections of your inner state, everything changes. You stop trying to change the world to feel safe, and you start turning inward. That tightening in your chest, the spiral of thoughts, the heat behind your eyes, it's not just about what happened in the moment. It's about the version of you that never got to speak. The moment you were dismissed as a child, the time you were hurt and told to get over it. When you're emotionally hijacked, you're not really in the present. You're reliving the past, and it's begging to be seen. Most people want control. They want to feel calm, composed, unshaken by the world. So they chase strategies, deep breaths, boundaries, mantras, fake calm. But underneath all of it, the storm still swirls. Because control without awareness is just a temporary escape. Real freedom comes from integration. You don't need to silence the trigger. You need to listen to it. That discomfort is intelligence. That reaction is a messenger. It points to where your love hasn't yet reached. This doesn't mean you tolerate poor treatment or justify others' behavior. It means you take responsibility for your emotional world. It means you begin to ask different questions, not, why are they like this? But why does this hurt me so much? That shift is where power lives. That is where transformation begins. Instead of being pulled into someone else's chaos, you observe it and realize, this isn't mine to carry. That clarity doesn't come from intellectual understanding. It comes from doing the inner work, from facing what you were taught to avoid. Spiritual wisdom teaches that every trigger is sacred. It's an invitation to heal, not to blame. Every person who frustrates you is showing you something about yourself, your expectations, your wounds, your values, your boundaries. They are mirrors, not enemies. Their presence reveals where you are still reactive, still raw, still seeking wholeness through outside validation. But the moment you stop expecting the world to protect your wounds and instead begin to tend to them yourself, you become untouchable, not cold or detached, but centered, aware, and grounded in truth. To never be bothered again is not about building emotional armor. It's about building emotional clarity. You become less reactive, not because you've numbed yourself, but because you've finally seen yourself. You understand what lives beneath your anger, what your sadness is trying to say, and what your silence is begging you to hear. And when you do that, when you meet your emotions with compassion instead of resistance, no one holds power over you. Do you recognize that the trigger isn't about them, but about your own healing? If this truth resonates with you, declare it in the comments. I choose to heal what's within me. 2. Anger is a message, not a problem. Anger is not a flaw. It is not a failure. It is a message raw, loud, and honest. It comes from the rejected corners of your being, from the shadow you've been taught to hide. The very thing you were told makes you unlovable. Your needs, your boundaries, your voice is now rising up to be heard. Anger is not trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to teach you where it was never safe to feel. When you get triggered, when your heart pounds and your jaw tightens, it's not about the person or the comment. It's about what was never healed, what was never seen. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not about blame. This is about revelation. Your anger reveals what still aches inside you. Every spike of emotion is an invitation. It says, "Look here. Look at what still needs compassion. Look at the little version of you that didn't get to speak. Look at the boundary you keep letting others cross." When you treat anger as a sacred signal instead of a shameful flaw, you start healing from within. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with intention. That's the difference between suppression and transformation. That's the heart of spiritual wisdom. True spiritual awakening isn't about becoming endlessly calm. It's about becoming endlessly aware. It's the ability to pause before you project, to listen before you lash out, to hold your pain without letting it spill onto others. Anger doesn't destroy relationships. Unconscious anger does. When you carry years of silence, when you bury your truth, it eventually explodes. But when you acknowledge your fire with tenderness, it burns clean. It becomes clarity. It becomes the truth. It becomes the force that builds boundaries, not barriers. Most people don't want to sit with their anger. They want to escape it, suppress it, pray it away. But the escape becomes another cage. You cannot bypass what your soul has assigned as your next lesson. And in this season, anger may be that lesson. Emotional maturity is not about never being triggered. It's about recognizing the trigger, owning your reaction, and asking, what is this trying to teach me? What unmet need is crying out through this emotion? When you start seeing anger as a compass, not a curse, everything shifts. You become less reactive and more reflective. You stop giving your power to external chaos and start reclaiming it through inner clarity. In that space, you're not controlled by anyone. No one's words, looks, or silence can hijack your peace. You have your emotional sovereignty back. There is nothing more powerful than a person who is no longer afraid of their own fire. A person who doesn't run from their rage, but understands it. Who doesn't justify it, but listens. Who doesn't weaponize it, but transforms it. That is the mark of someone who is awakening. That is the path of spiritual depth. Not avoidance, not perfection, but presence. The courage to feel without being consumed. The wisdom to pause, reflect, and alchemize pain into self-respect. Anger is a doorway, and if you're willing to walk through it, not slam it shut, you'll find a part of yourself you've been waiting your whole life to meet. Have you ever listened to what your anger was really trying to say? If so, share your insights in the comments. Your story might help someone else heal. If not, comment, "I'm ready to listen," so we can begin this journey of self-awareness together. 3. The shadow holds the key to emotional freedom. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the gatekeeper to your emotional freedom. Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. The things that trigger you, whether it's someone's loud voice, their emotional intensity, or their bold vulnerability, are often reflections of the very parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. You weren't born detached, guarded, or composed. You were trained to be that way. Somewhere along the line, being sensitive became a weakness. Being needy was seen as shameful. Expressing too much joy, anger, or desire was labeled too much. So you buried it. But what's buried doesn't die. It waits. It becomes part of your shadow. And when someone shows up in your life, embodying the exact traits you've disowned. Something inside you tightens. That tightening is the call. The anger isn't about them. It's about you, meeting the abandoned self. That's why integration, not avoidance, is the path to wholeness. You don't heal by deleting people who trigger you. You heal by asking, what in me is rising to be seen? A woman raised to be the strong one, always composed, may find herself irrationally annoyed by someone who cries openly. But her annoyance is actually her shadow saying, I once cried like that. I was shamed for it. I miss that part of me. Or a man who prides himself on being logical might judge someone deeply intuitive. But the judgment is a mirror showing him the part of his soul that once believed in feeling, but was taught to fear it. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means reclaiming every part of you, even the messy, dramatic, impulsive, insecure fragments you've hidden. Triggers are sacred. They lead you to your unhealed places. Emotional freedom is not about being unbothered. It's about being deeply aware. When someone shakes your peace, they are not stealing your power. They are revealing where it was never stable to begin with. This is the invitation to stop reacting and start reflecting. Every emotional reaction is a doorway. The ones who trigger you are not villains. They are messengers. They mirror your inner work. They call you home to the self you lost while trying to be accepted. To be spiritually awake is not to float above pain, but to stand in it, breathe into it, and ask what it came to teach you. That's the shadow's gift. That's Carl Jung's timeless lesson. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on turning emotional triggers into keys to your inner freedom. 4. Emotional mastery is about integration, not suppression. Emotional mastery isn't about being unaffected. It's about being fully aware, about feeling every wave of emotion without letting it dictate who you become. You don't reach peace by ignoring your feelings or pretending they don't exist. You arrive at peace by understanding them so deeply that they no longer control you. Integration doesn't mean staying calm at all costs. It means letting every emotion rise and fall inside you while remaining anchored in your own center. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom. And it's the kind of spiritual wisdom that transforms your entire relationship with the world. When someone says something sharp, it's not their words alone that hurt. It's the memory, the wound, the story it reactivates within you. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your thoughts spiral. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can lash out, shut down, or distract yourself. Or you can pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to show me about myself? Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the invitation to stop running from your triggers and start listening to them. They're not curses, they're clues. Suppressing emotion is like holding a beach ball underwater. The more pressure you apply, the more forcefully it will erupt. But when you practice integration, you let the emotion surface, breathe, and pass. You don't identify with it. You observe it. You learn from it. You hold space for it without letting it take over. That's emotional sovereignty, not being immune to pain, but becoming so intimate with it that it can no longer blindside you. A woman once believed her strength came from being the calm one. She never cried in front of others, never got angry, always smiled. But inside, she carried years of unspoken grief and resentment. One day, after a simple conversation triggered her deeply, She didn't suppress it. She didn't perform calm. She sat with her rage shaking, crying, breathing through it, and listened to what it was saying. It wasn't asking her to destroy anything. It was asking her to finally be honest. That moment didn't make her less peaceful. It made her real. From then on, her calm came from truth, not performance. True integration is when you stop splitting your emotions into good or bad, right or wrong. You recognize them all as parts of you messengers, not enemies. And in doing so, you stop being reactive and start being reflective. You're no longer tossed around by other people's energy because you've learned to anchor into your own. Your inner state becomes yours again, not something anyone else can steal. That's how you rise not above your emotions, but through them. Not by pretending, but by integrating. And when you live this way, spiritual wisdom stops being a concept. It becomes the way you move through life steady, present, and deeply free. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. I honor every emotion, and I choose integration over suppression. I am mastering my inner world with grace. 5. Triggers are mirrors and teachers. The people who upset you the most are not random villains in your story. They are precise, intentional mirrors reflecting the unresolved parts of your inner world. That sting you feel when someone mocks you, ignores you, or challenges you. It isn't just about their behavior. It's a signal, a spotlight on the wound you've buried. Instead of asking, why are they like this, which only traps you in blame, ask, what is this revealing about me? That question is the beginning of real emotional freedom. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's not just a quote, it's a map. When someone disrespects you and it infuriates you, maybe it's because deep down you've struggled with self-worth. When you feel rejected and your heart tightens, maybe it's echoing an old story where you weren't chosen. The emotion isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. It's not about controlling others, it's about integrating the parts of you that still hurt. If someone says something untrue about you and it rolls off your back, it's because there's no hook inside you for that comment to cling to. But if their words cut you deep, it means there's something inside you still uncertain, still afraid it might be true. That's where the mirror becomes a teacher. That's where spiritual awakening begins, not in the silence of meditation, but in the heat of everyday emotion. When you react without reflection, you give away your power. You become a puppet to someone else's words, moods, and projections. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you ask, what is this showing me? You take your power back. You move from emotional slavery to emotional mastery. That's the essence of spiritual wisdom. Not to avoid emotion, but to understand it, to decode it, to alchemize it. This isn't easy work. Blame is easy. Defense is easy. But healing requires awareness. It asks you to get honest about the stories you're still carrying, the roles you're still playing, and the identities you're still clinging to for safety. And it demands you rewrite them, not to please others, but to set yourself free. Your triggers are not flaws. They are sacred clues. They point you to the places in yourself still waiting to be loved, seen, and heard. Every irritation, every judgment, every emotional spiral is a message from your soul. Not to harden you, but to soften you into truth. Because when you stop asking others to change and start doing the inner work, the world outside you begins to shift. You become less reactive, more grounded. You stop being hijacked by external chaos. You stop needing everyone to like you or agree with you. That is true liberation, not being untouched by life, but being unshaken by it. That is the spiritual awakening your soul has been craving. And it begins not with them, but with you. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of self-discovery. Type in the comments, "I am ready to learn from every trigger and grow through it." 6. Self-worth comes from within, not others. You stop being reactive the moment you stop outsourcing your identity. As long as your sense of self-worth is built on the approval, validation, or recognition of others, you remain vulnerable to every shift in their mood, tone, or opinion. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that journey begins when you no longer hand your power to others. Their words, their judgments, their silence, none of it should determine your value. When your self-worth is externally dependent, every interaction becomes a test. A raised eyebrow feels like rejection. A missed compliment feels like failure. But once you start drawing your identity from within, the game changes. You no longer live to be seen. You live to be aligned. You speak not to impress, but to express. Their approval becomes a bonus, not a requirement. And in that shift, you gain something priceless: inner freedom. Mia, a talented designer, used to live for validation. Her boss's comments shaped her mood, her confidence, her sleep. Every piece of feedback echoed louder than her own voice. But after immersing herself in healing work and Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, she realized something profound about her boss wasn't the problem. Her dependency on external validation was. She stopped needing to be affirmed to feel worthy. She started creating from a place of self-trust, and in doing so, she reclaimed her peace. That's the power of individuation. According to Jung, it's the process of separating your authentic self from the false identities you've worn to survive identities like the people pleaser, the overachiever, or the one who's always agreeable. These masks may win praise, but they cost you your soul. When you release them, you don't become less connected, you become more whole. You don't lose compassion, you gain boundaries. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. It means you hear someone's opinion without absorbing it into your self-definition. You can love people without needing their permission to feel whole. You can accept feedback without shrinking. And you can walk away from misunderstanding without needing to explain your worth. Carl Jung also reminded us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone's words sting, ask yourself, what part of me still believes them? What story inside me do they confirm? Often, their voice is just an echo of a wound that hasn't been seen yet. And healing doesn't always mean fixing it, it means integrating. You carry the pain, yes, but now with wisdom. You see your triggers not as flaws, but as invitations. The moment you stop needing others to tell you who you are, their opinions lose weight. Your energy stops leaking. Your peace becomes steady. You become a mirror of strength, not because you force it, but because you remember it. When your identity is rooted within, you don't need to defend it, you embody it. And that is spiritual wisdom in motion. Comment below, "My worth comes from within," if you're ready to stop seeking validation and start standing fully in your power. 7. True power is psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung called it individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole by owning every fragment of your inner world. You don't reach power by numbing your heart or silencing your soul. You arrive at true strength when the places that once bled have been tended to with such honesty and presence that they no longer cry out. You don't flinch when someone disapproves, because you've already accepted the parts of you they're pointing at. You don't chase people who leave, because you no longer abandon yourself. You don't over-explain, because you've made peace with being misunderstood. This is not arrogance. This is what it feels like to be internally free. This freedom doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you're no longer ruled by everything. Anger, sadness, and pain still come and go, but they don't possess you. You don't react automatically. You don't spiral. Instead, you witness. You allow the emotion to rise and pass like a wave that no longer knocks you over, because the ocean within you is no longer chaotic. This is not cold detachment. It is warm awareness. It is spiritual wisdom in motion, the kind that says, I trust myself enough to feel everything without collapsing into anything. You become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you've healed. The judgment of others can no longer define you, because you've already looked your shadows in the eye and stayed. When someone criticizes, you pause not to internalize their words, but to ask, does this resonate with the truth I know in me? And if it doesn't, you release it. You don't carry every dart that's thrown your way. You've built inner walls made of clarity, not fear. You've stopped needing to convince anyone of your worth, because your being alone is the evidence. This kind of power cannot be faked. You can't pretend your way into sovereignty. No meditation trick, no affirmation repeated 1,000 times can replace the deep work of integration. Real peace is earned. It comes from sitting with discomfort until it no longer threatens you. It comes from witnessing your jealousy, your rage, your insecurity, not to judge or banish them, but to understand what they protect. And in that understanding, their grip loosens. That's when you realize it was never about silencing your emotions. It was about learning their language. You don't need to become harder to protect your heart. You need to become softer with yourself. Gentleness is not weakness when it's rooted in self-respect. Silence is not avoidance when it's chosen with discernment. Boundaries are not walls when they're drawn from love, not fear. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that we don't ascend by escaping life. We rise by descending into our own depths and learning how to hold ourselves through it. And so, the people who once triggered you become mirrors, not threats. Their judgments become reflections, not verdicts. Their leaving becomes redirection, not rejection. You no longer fear losing them because you've stopped losing yourself. This is what it means to live whole, not perfect, not unaffected, but rooted, clear, and profoundly free. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of truth. I reclaim my power. I am whole, rooted, and free. And remember, mastery over your emotions doesn't mean you never feel them. It means they no longer control you. As Carl Jung reminded us, what irritates us most often reveals what's unhealed within. So the next time someone triggers you, pause and ask, what part of me is asking to be seen? If this message helped shift your perspective, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss the insights we share to help you grow in peace, power, and presence. Until next time, stay grounded, stay conscious, and stay true to your inner light.